Imagine two people sitting in meditation, both eyes closed, both peaceful, both speaking about consciousness and oneness. One is genuinely awakening, their entire reality restructuring at the cellular level. The other is spiritually bypassing, using enlightenment as the ultimate escape from their unresolved pain. From the outside, they look absolutely identical. From the inside, they're in completely different universes. Carl Jung spent his career distinguishing real spiritual transformation from what he called the transcendence fantasy, the use of spiritual concepts to avoid genuine psychological work. He discovered that most of what passes for awakening is actually sophisticated avoidance dressed in spiritual clothing. The difference is critical. Genuine awakening brings you deeper into life, into your pain, into your full humanity. Spiritual bypassing takes you away from life, away from feeling, away from responsibility. One is integration, the other is escape. One transforms, the other performs. Today, I'm revealing the 8 signs Jung identified that prove you're experiencing genuine spiritual awakening, not just another form of psychological defense. These aren't comfortable signs. Real awakening is messier than the marketing suggests. But if you're experiencing them, you're on the real path, not the fantasy one. And the third sign, it's exactly the opposite of what every spiritual book promises you'll experience. The first sign of genuine awakening that Jung documented extensively: you feel absolutely terrible, not enlightened, not blissful, not transcendent, terrible. Your anxiety increases, depression deepens, physical symptoms manifest. You're falling apart, not rising above, and it gets worse before it gets better. This is the opposite of spiritual bypassing, where people immediately feel amazing and beyond suffering. Jung observed that real awakening begins with necessary disintegration. Everything false must collapse before anything true can emerge. And that collapse feels exactly like dying, because psychologically speaking, it is. A therapist undergoing genuine awakening told Jung, "Everyone kept telling me awakening would bring peace. Instead, I felt like I was having a nervous breakdown. Every suppressed emotion from 40 years erupted simultaneously. Grief I'd never processed, rage I'd never expressed, fear I'd never faced. Every avoided truth demanded attention. Every comfortable lie stopped working. I thought I was going insane." Jung assured her this was sanity finally arriving. The real kind, not the performed kind. Real awakening dismantles your defense mechanisms systematically. Bypassing strengthens them with spiritual language. The genuine article tears down walls you didn't even know were walls. The fake one builds prettier walls and calls them boundaries. You know it's real when you feel more raw, not more protected. When you're more exposed, not more defended. The overwhelming emotions you can't control or understand. The physical symptoms with no medical cause. The complete inability to maintain your previous persona. The terror mixed with the inexplicable knowing this is necessary. All are signs of genuine disintegration. Your body might shake uncontrollably. You might cry for days without knowing why. You might feel like you're literally dying because the false self is dying and it doesn't go quietly. Compare this to spiritual bypassing, where people claim immediate transcendence. I'm beyond ego now. I don't feel negative emotions anymore. I'm always in bliss. This isn't awakening. It's advanced denial, wearing enlightenment's costume. Jung called it pseudo-transcendence, using spirituality to avoid the messy, painful, absolutely necessary breakdown that precedes breakthrough. Genuine awakening includes dark nights that last months or years, not hours or days. The disintegration isn't a weekend workshop experience. It's a complete demolition of who you thought you were, not as a failure, but as the inevitable process. The psyche must die to be reborn, and death is never comfortable. If your awakening doesn't include profound discomfort, you might be bypassing the actual work. But underneath the chaos, there's a strange rightness. You're falling apart into something more real, even if you can't see what that is yet. Yet this is just the beginning of how genuine awakening differs from the fantasy version everyone's selling. The second sign Jung identified: your shadows don't disappear, they become enormous. Everything dark within you amplifies, intensifies, and demands integration. You don't transcend your demons. You meet them fully for the very first time, and they're much bigger than you imagined. Spiritual bypassing claims the opposite. I've transcended my shadow. I'm all love and light now. Darkness doesn't touch me. Jung observed this as the most dangerous delusion. Using spirituality to avoid the shadow ensures it controls you unconsciously. The shadow doesn't disappear when ignored. It goes underground and runs your life from the basement. A woman in genuine awakening was horrified by what emerged. I thought I was a good person, kind, compassionate, evolved. I'd spent years cultivating a spiritual persona of love and light. Then awakening showed me my real shadows. The murderous rage I'd buried under sweetness. The manipulation disguised as caring. The cruelty hiding behind compassion. The narcissism wearing humility's mask. I saw that I was capable of every evil I judged in others. It wasn't metaphorical. I could feel the killer in me, the thief, the liar, the predator. It was devastating and liberating simultaneously. Jung documented that genuine awakening makes shadows conscious, not absent. You see your capacity for evil, not to become evil, but to integrate it consciously. Without knowing your darkness, you can't choose the light. You're just defaulting to conditioning. The shadow expansion happens in layers that Jung mapped extensively. Personal shadows surface first, your individual repressed material. Then familial patterns emerge, the ancestral trauma in your DNA. Then collective darkness appears, the shadows of your culture and society. Finally, universal shadows manifest, the darkness inherent in existence itself. Each layer brings a deeper confrontation with darkness you thought you transcended. A monk who'd spent 20 years in love and light spirituality had his genuine awakening at 50. 2 decades of meditation hadn't eliminated my shadows. It had buried them deeper, gave them time to ferment. When real awakening came, they erupted like volcanoes. Sexual desires I thought I'd transcended were actually suppressed and now returned with violent intensity. Aggressive impulses I denied through spiritual bypassing came roaring back. The enlightened monk was a costume over a very human shadow, and the costume was burning. Jung's crucial insight: you can't transcend what you haven't integrated. Jumping to the light without digesting the darkness creates spiritual psychosis. Real awakening includes shadow work that lasts years, even lifetimes. You don't graduate from darkness. You learn to dance with it. Every time you think you've integrated all shadows, deeper ones emerge from places you didn't know existed. But the shadows aren't the only thing that refuses to leave during genuine awakening. The third sign, distinguishing genuine awakening from the fantasy: your ego doesn't die. It evolves into something far more sophisticated. While bypassing claims ego death, and I have no ego anymore, genuine awakening reveals the ego as an immortal shapeshifter that gets smarter with every attempt to eliminate it. Jung observed that the ego doesn't actually die during awakening. It transforms, adapts, and learns to speak spirituality fluently. It becomes the spiritual ego, more dangerous because it's harder to detect. It hides in humility while seeking recognition for being humble. It performs enlightenment while craving validation for its performance. It uses non-dual concepts to maintain the ultimate duality, being the one who knows non-duality while others don't. A teacher who thought he killed his ego discovered the truth. After my supposed ego death, I caught myself feeling superior to unconscious people, being proud of my humility, literally proud of not being proud, competing about who's more awakened while claiming competition is ego, using spiritual concepts to win arguments while preaching non-attachment to outcomes. My ego hadn't died. It had gotten a PhD in enlightenment and was now running a more sophisticated game than ever before. The spiritual ego masters the art of appearing egoless. It says, "I don't judge," while judging those who judge. Claims we're all one while feeling special for knowing it. Proclaims I have no attachments while being attached to non-attachment. Insists I'm nobody while needing everyone to know it's nobody. This isn't transcendence. It's the ego's ultimate trick, hiding behind its own absence. Jung called it the ego pretending to be dead while pulling all the strings. Jung documented how genuine awakening involves ongoing ego confrontation, not one-time elimination. The ego keeps shape-shifting, finding new ways to claim specialness, even through claiming no specialness. In genuine awakening, you develop ego consciousness, awareness of ego's movements without identification. You watch it perform its spiritual theater, while neither believing nor fighting it. You see it trying to be the most egoless, the most surrendered, the most awakened, and you smile at its endless creativity. The teacher admitted, "The most humbling realization was that I'll never be free of ego. It's part of human hardware, not a software bug to be fixed. The best I can do is be conscious of it, honest about it, even amused by it. My ego wants to be the most enlightened being in the room." Okay, I see you, ego. Thanks for sharing. Now let's do something useful anyway while you perform your enlightenment show. Speaking of things that don't disappear during awakening, the next sign reveals something even more challenging. The fourth sign Jung emphasized: you become more human, not less, more emotional, more vulnerable, more affected by life. While spiritual bypassing seeks to transcend humanity, genuine awakening brings you deeper into the messy, painful, beautiful, utterly ordinary experience of being human. Bypassing says, "I'm beyond human concerns." Physical reality is illusion. Emotions are just energy to transcend. The body is just a temporary vehicle for consciousness. Jung observed this as dissociation disguised as transcendence, using spirituality to escape the discomfort of having a body, feelings, needs, and mortality. A woman who'd spent years trying to transcend her humanity had a genuine awakening. "I'd been using meditation to escape my body, sitting so still I couldn't feel it, using philosophy to avoid feelings. If everything is empty, why feel? Using oneness to bypass intimacy. If we're all one, why need connection?" Then real awakening hit like a tidal wave of humanity. Suddenly, I felt everything. Every emotion was amplified tenfold. Every physical sensation was intense. Every human need was undeniable. I wasn't transcending humanity. I was finally actually viscerally experiencing it fully for the first time. Jung documented how genuine awakening enhances human experience rather than diminishing it. Emotions become more intense, not less. You feel the full spectrum from ecstasy to agony. Physical sensations increase. Pleasure becomes more pleasurable, pain more painful. Relationships become more important. Connection matters more when you realize how brief life is. Daily life becomes more significant. Every ordinary moment is recognized as unrepeatable. The paradox: by fully accepting your humanity, you transcend it. By trying to transcend it prematurely, you remain trapped by what you're avoiding. A man described his humanization. "I thought awakening would make me float above human concerns. Instead, I cry at commercials now. Not just tear up, sob. I feel physical pain more acutely. A stubbed toe can bring me to my knees. I'm affected by others' suffering in ways that devastate me. A homeless person's pain enters my body. This isn't weakness, it's awakening. Feeling the full weight and wonder of existence instead of numbing it with transcendence fantasies. Genuine awakening makes you more sensitive, not less. More affected, not detached. More present to pain, not beyond it. You don't rise above the human condition. You dive into it so completely that you discover its divinity. You become fully human and fully spiritual simultaneously, not one at the expense of the other. But perhaps the most telling sign is what happens to your need for answers. If you're recognizing these signs, feeling worse before better, shadows expanding, ego evolving, becoming more human, you're likely in genuine awakening, not spiritual bypassing. Yes, it's messier than expected. That's exactly how you know it's real. Before we explore the final 4 signs, join our community of souls navigating real awakening together. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share in the comments which sign surprised you most. Your honesty about the messy reality might help someone else recognize their own genuine process. Let's continue, because these next signs reveal even deeper distinctions. The 5th sign of genuine awakening. Instead of finding answers, you discover infinite questions. Every insight opens 10 new mysteries. Every understanding reveals vaster not knowing. While bypassing claims to have found the answer, genuine awakening reveals there isn't one. There are infinite questions fracturing into infinity. Jung observed that real spiritual growth leads to learned ignorance. The more you know you don't know. Certainty dissolves into wonder. Answers transform into better questions. Knowledge becomes wisdom about the limits of knowledge. You don't become someone who knows. You become someone comfortable with not knowing. A philosopher in Genuine Awakening described the vertigo. I thought awakening would bring clarity, final answers to life's big questions. Instead, every answer I found split into more questions, like a hydra. Who am I? Became what is I? Became what is? Became what is what? I wasn't finding truth. I was finding infinite regression of mystery. The questions didn't end. They exponentially expanded until I was drowning in beautiful uncertainty. Spiritual bypassing claims the opposite. I understand everything now. I have the answers. I know the truth. I can explain reality. This isn't awakening. It's intellectual crystallization, using spiritual concepts to create false certainty. Jung called it metaphysical fundamentalism, replacing religious dogma with spiritual dogma, trading one prison of certainty for another. A scientist's genuine awakening shattered his certainty. I'd spent my career answering questions, solving problems, understanding mechanisms. Awakening revealed that every scientific answer was built on assumptions, built on mysteries, built on complete unknowns. We don't know what consciousness is, what matter is, what energy is, what time is, what anything actually is. We just have functional descriptions of behaviors, not understanding of essence. I went from professor who knows to student who wonders, from expert to eternal beginner. Jung documented that genuine awakening creates the cloud of unknowing, a state where not knowing becomes more true than any knowing. You become certain that certainty is impossible, sure that assurance is illusion. This isn't confusion, it's clarity about the nature of mystery. Every day brings new unknowing. Every meditation reveals deeper questions. You don't graduate to knowing. You graduate to a better quality of not knowing, more elegant ignorance, wiser bewilderment. Yet even this comfort with mystery isn't the most challenging sign. The 6th sign, distinguishing genuine awakening from bypassing. You take more responsibility for everything in your life, not less. While bypassing uses concepts like surrender and it's all God's will to avoid responsibility, genuine awakening reveals you're the author of your entire experience, even the parts that seem to happen to you. Jung observed this as the hallmark of real transformation, moving from victim consciousness to creator consciousness, not through ego inflation, but through recognizing your participatory role in every pattern you experience. You stop being the effect and realize you're also the cause, not through New Age manifestation, but through unconscious participation. A woman discovered this during awakening. I'd spent years blaming others, my parents for trauma, my ex for trust issues, society for my struggles. I had legitimate grievances, real wounds, actual injustices. I thought spirituality would confirm I was an innocent victim of cruel circumstances. Instead, awakening showed how I unconsciously created every pattern, How I chose partners who would abandon me because abandonment was familiar. How I manifested situations that confirmed my beliefs about being unseen. How I needed my wounds to maintain my identity as wounded. It was devastating. I couldn't blame anyone anymore, not even the people who genuinely hurt me. Spiritual bypassing avoids responsibility through spiritual-sounding excuses. It's all divine will becomes avoiding personal choice. Everything happens for a reason becomes bypassing accountability. I'm just surrendering to flow becomes escaping decision-making. The universe will provide becomes avoiding practical action. Jung documented that genuine awakening brings radical responsibility, seeing how you participate in creating everything you experience through unconscious patterns, projections, and choices you don't remember making. A man's awakening revealed his accountability. I'd been fired from 3 jobs and blamed bad bosses every time. They were genuinely difficult people, but awakening showed me how I unconsciously created conflict, provoked authority figures, and engineered my own dismissal. I needed rejection to confirm my story of being unseen and unvalued. I wasn't just a victim. I was the author of a pattern I kept recreating because it was familiar. This responsibility extends beyond personal to the collective. Seeing how you participate in systems you critique, recognizing your role in dynamics you complain about. Jung emphasized genuine awakening means recognizing your responsibility, your ability to respond rather than react, to choose rather than default, to create rather than copy unconscious patterns. But there's something even more sobering about genuine awakening. The 7th sign Jung identified as crucial. You lose any sense of being spiritually special. While bypassing creates spiritual narcissism, I'm awakening, others aren't. Genuine awakening brings profound humility. You realize you're nothing special, and that's the ultimate liberation. Jung observed that real awakening dissolves the chosen one complex, the ego's attempt to make awakening into another form of specialness. You realize awakening isn't your achievement, but grace, not your superiority, but your surrender. Not what makes you different, but what makes you the same. Consciousness experiencing itself through another ordinary form. A teacher who'd built his identity on being awakened had it shattered. I spent years subtly and not so subtly believing I was special for awakening, more conscious than others, further along the path, a guide for the sleeping masses. I had profound experiences, genuine insights, real transformation. Surely that made me special. Then genuine awakening showed me the truth. Consciousness is awakening through me, not to me. I'm not special. I'm just another opening through which consciousness experiences itself, no different from anyone or anything else. Spiritual bypassing creates hierarchies that Jung documented extensively. I'm at a higher vibration. I'm more evolved. I'm an old soul. I'm here to help others awaken. These are ego strategies to maintain specialness through spirituality. Real awakening reveals the democracy of consciousness. Everyone is equally consciousness, just at different stages of remembering. The homeless person is consciousness. The politician is consciousness. The tree is consciousness. No one is more consciousness than anyone else. The teacher admitted losing specialness was ego death at another level. My whole identity was built on being awakened, being the teacher, being the one who knows. Without that, who was I? Nobody special. Just another human struggling with being human. Just another wave thinking it's separate from the ocean. It was devastating and liberating. I could finally just be without needing to be somebody special. Jung's insight: the need to be spiritually special prevents genuine awakening. It's the ego's final strategy. If it can't be special through worldly achievement, it'll be special through spiritual achievement. But real awakening dissolves all specialness into ordinariness, all separation into unity, all hierarchy into equality. Which brings us to the final most important sign, the 8th and final sign of genuine awakening. The entire spiritual journey becomes utterly ordinary. Not special, not dramatic, not even particularly spiritual, just life happening. While bypassing keeps spirituality exotic and separate, genuine awakening integrates it into mundane existence until there's no difference between spiritual and ordinary. Jung observed this as the completion of genuine awakening. When the extraordinary becomes ordinary, when miracles become mundane, when the spiritual journey becomes just another Tuesday, not through loss of wonder, but through wonder becoming so constant it's just the background hum of existence. A woman who'd been seeking for decades reached this ordinariness. I spent 30 years chasing peak experiences, profound insights, spiritual highs, every workshop, every teacher, every technique that promised breakthrough. Then genuine awakening brought everything to ground level. Washing dishes became as spiritual as meditation. The warm water, the soap bubbles, the clean plates, all sacred. Arguing with my husband as sacred as prayer. Two consciousnesses meeting, clashing, finding each other again. Getting groceries as profound as any mystical experience. The journey didn't end. It became invisible because it included everything. Spiritual bypassing maintains the exotic, constantly seeking peak experiences, needing spiritual highs to feel valid, separating spiritual from ordinary life, requiring special conditions for consciousness like intense retreats or rituals. Jung documented that genuine awakening dissolves all boundaries between spiritual and ordinary. Everything becomes equally sacred and equally mundane. The mystical becomes practical. The profound becomes simple. A man described his ordinariness. People ask about my spiritual practice. I tell them, I wake up, make coffee, go to work, come home, watch TV with my wife, go to bed. They look disappointed, wanting to hear about meditation retreats or advanced spiritual intensives. But genuine awakening made everything equally spiritual. My coffee is communion, beans that traveled thousands of miles to wake me up. My work is practice, consciousness serving consciousness. My marriage is my monastery, where I learn love through laundry and presence through problems. It's all ordinary, it's all sacred. There's no difference anymore. Jung's final insight, genuine awakening doesn't make you special. It makes you normal, but normal at a deeper level, ordinarily conscious rather than seeking consciousness, simply awake rather than trying to awaken. The biggest sign of genuine awakening, you stop caring about signs of awakening. You stop measuring progress because there's nowhere to progress to. You're just here, aware, ordinary, living this human life with however much consciousness you have in this moment. And that's perfectly enough. These 8 signs Jung identified distinguish genuine spiritual awakening from spiritual bypassing. The messy disintegration instead of immediate transcendence, meeting darkness instead of claiming only light, ego evolution instead of elimination, becoming more human instead of less, mystery expanding instead of resolving, taking more responsibility instead of less, losing specialness instead of gaining it, the journey becoming ordinary instead of remaining exotic. Jung's ultimate insight, genuine awakening is messier, harder, more human, and more ordinary than anyone expects. It's not an escape from the human condition, but a deeper entry into it. Not a bypass around difficulty, but a direct path through it. The messiness is the path. The difficulty is the transformation. The ordinariness is the extraordinary. If you recognize these signs in your journey, Jung would want you to know, you're not failing at awakening because it's hard. You're succeeding because you're doing it real. Spiritual bypassing offers comfort through escape. Genuine awakening offers freedom through integration. One helps you avoid life. The other helps you live it fully. If your awakening is destroying everything you thought spirituality would be, congratulations. You're on the genuine path. If it's making you more human rather than less, more ordinary rather than special, more questioning rather than certain, you're awakening for real. Trust the mess. Trust the questions. Trust the shadows. Trust the ordinariness. This is what genuine awakening actually looks like. Not floating above life, but diving into it so completely that the boundary between spiritual and ordinary dissolves. If these signs resonate with your experience, subscribe to this channel and join our community of souls navigating genuine awakening, mess and all. Hit the notification bell for daily explorations of the real spiritual journey.